Hey guys, it's Sean from the Comics Pals. We are here live at New York Comic Con 2024. It is Thursday, which means that there's energy in the room, there's a buzz, there's a lot of exciting things going on. And I'm going to tell you something right now. Standing next to me is my annual favorite interview. I make a beeline for this man every single year as close as I can get to Thursday because I want this. I want the big energy. I want the excitement. I'm excited to be speaking to the writer of Homestead, the writer of Hope, the writer of Nightmare World, the writer of Tales of Mystery.
I'm going to have a seat. Just keep going.
I could rattle off titles for the whole interview and not be done. Standing next to me is horror extraordinaire Dirk Manning himself. Dirk, how you doing, man?
And I've said this to you privately before, and I'll say it again. One of the highlights of New York Comic Con is this moment. And the success you guys are having is so well earned. It's so amazing. For people that are just, maybe discovering the channel last year, you guys have been crushing it for years.
Thank you.
And the success you're having, and legitimately, heart to heart, man to man, friend to friend, peer to peer, all of the I'm just going to be real, the stress of coming to the biggest Comic Con in the country, which is amazing. I love this show. I know that on Thursday, I get to see you guys. I get to chat with the Comics Pals, and just this is it. This is where this is just the magic.
Well, you know what? My listeners hear about my stress all the time. They're familiar with my stress.
All right.
Let's talk about the stress of being a guy who you're the road warrior of comics. I always reference you when I'm talking about somebody who puts their boots on the ground and goes out and sells comics hand to hand.
Right.
You guys will see a little bit of B-roll of all the beautiful things that Dirk has here. Every single time I see you, your table has more and more comics. How do you keep up the energy to produce so many comics every year when you don't have, you're with SourcePoint, and I know that relationship is fantastic.
Yes.
You don't have the big two machine behind you.
It's funny because in a way you kind of answer your own question. I don't have the big machine behind me, so as such, it's DIY. I have to do this myself.
Right.
And I'm passionate about what I do. I believe in what I do. I'm extremely fortunate to have the support of SourcePoint Press, but you're right, they're not funded by a giant mega conglomeration.
It's not Disney.
It's not, and then there's no shame in that game, right? That's fine. But as a result, it's like you have to get out and you have to do it yourself. This February, we were talking before this started, It's going to be my 22nd year as a published writer. And just the other day, I found a brochure for one of the first conventions I ever did. And all I'm going to say, it was 2000 and a single digit behind it.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And it blew me away because I was talking to a buddy of mine about this. I'm like, yeah, it was like 2014. He's like, no, take 10 off of that. I'm like, no. But again, I like to keep that stuff, that memorabilia and stuff. And I look back and I'm like, that's 2003, 2004 were my first conventions. But part of it you have to do it, but part of it is, again, like we talked about a minute ago, cultivating those relationships, seeing people come by every year that maybe this is how they get their comics, this is how they engage, and we have things like Kickstarter and stuff like that, but they like to come and get their book signed and things like that. We get to connect, and there's people who came to me originally as like teenagers and now they're married and stuff like that, and they bring in their kids. I'm like, oh God, I better do a kid's book for you. But it's just there's a passion to this, and I love comics so much, and it's really a privilege and an honor to do this, and that's the other piece of it. The fact that I have the opportunity to do this motivates me to do it, to take advantage of that opportunity, and to enjoy it. To enjoy it. Again, this is New York City. This is the biggest Comic Con in the country. And when you're anybody in our style will tell you, it's a lot to get it. It's a lot of effort to get into this show, to get set up and stuff like that. But man, once you're here, you get to catch up with your friends. You get to talk to people. You get to see your peers. You get to eat, dirty water dogs and pieces of pizza as big as your torso.
Yep.
It's this is one of the best conventions of the year every year. So it makes it worth it. And then you multiply that, big shows, small shows. It's just everything has its own vibe, and it's an honor and a blessing to be able to do it.
Well, as you said, you've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into all the comics. You've got some major announcements and things like that we're going to discuss. But I really want to ask you, because you're a veteran and someone who I think is sort of the model for how you can do it yourself in an industry where, a lot of people can make comics. You can get comics out in any way, but knowing how to, talk to people, get out in front of people, all that stuff. Do you see a shift at all in the industry where now we do have Kickstarter, which is on the rise? We do have sort of the book channel now where it's getting away from the direct market a little bit, and it is sort of becoming about DIY creators, be it through webtoons or global comics, these different initiatives.
Right.
How do you see that shift?
It's funny, I've been doing this 22 years, and I'm to a point in my career, and the gray temple's starting to show it. I'm seeing things come full circle.
Sure.
My friends at Global Comics just announced a deal with DC Comics.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm so happy for them. And seeing people taking digital distribution seriously again. And there is digital avenues. There is more than ever print on demand. There's Kickstarter. You can build your audience. You can do this stuff. And it's amazing. But at the same time, paper's more expensive than it's ever been. The competition to get into shows is stronger than it's ever been. So it's interesting, and it's rare. I don't have a quick response. That's why I was kind of like struggling, because the opportunity is there more than ever, but in some ways the access is more expensive.
Yeah.
Right? More and more people are coming out to cons and things like that. So there's more competition. Paper's higher, things like that. Food's more expensive. Let's be, people got bills to pay. But it is interesting to see things coming full circle. Like I said, DC signing a deal with Global Comics. Well, now we have our new digital distribution model back.
Right.
Kickstarter is blowing up again, and people are getting more familiar. People are looking at Kickstarter as what it is, a direct channel to support content creators rather than holding a tin can out there shaking it for nickels, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is how we get you the books first. So it's an exciting time, but it's also, I recognize, and I'll do a cheap plug.
Yeah, please.
I wrote a book on this called Right or Wrong, A Writer's Guide to Creating Comics.
Love this book, by the way.
A new second edition is out. You can get it wherever books are sold or on Amazon. I wrote a book about it. You have to put in some ways more than ever. When I started my career in the early 2000s with Nightmare World as an online comic, it was like a novelty, like comics online. He has a website. Whoa. Now everyone has 5 websites. You have social media, things like that. So the competition for attention is tougher. And people are trained to look at themselves and how many likes did their lasagna get, rather than, I'm going to go online and see what other people are doing. And everything's algorithm driven, and social media platforms are burying external links. So there's new challenges, but there's also new opportunities. And you just have to work harder than ever, but if you do, it's easier than ever to break through. If that makes sense. It's like there's, the cost to play is higher, but the rewards are greater.
That makes all the sense in the world to me. And I've said this too before, but I continue to say it. I think that the blueprint of sort of the do-it-yourself model that we see being so successful now is something that you innovated in a lot of ways through your internet platform in the 2000s. I mean, look, I was reading your column on Newsarama, so it's like you've been in the grind.
Well, and I appreciate that, and that's it. And back then, like, people would print the columns and put them in a binder and stuff like that, And I would do that with articles, But right now you can do things like print on demand and things like that. And just the signal to noise is tougher. So you really have to commit to, and I think you've probably seen this in your podcast, commit to, I need to make people aware of what we're doing.
Yes.
Your quality on your podcast is very high.
Thank you.
And I've said that forever. I've always been a huge fan. but you probably see, not to start interviewing you, right? That's how long we've known each other. I'm just going to start interviewing Sean now, right?
It's been a while. It's been about a decade.
But doing things like the YouTube Shorts and things like that, right? You do a great show that's hour, 2 hours. If you have me on like 3 hours or so, sorry. But you have to do things like, well, we're going to make YouTube Shorts, right? And we're going to do this. And there's a new social media platform. Is it going to blow up? I don't know. I got to get my handle. I got to put it on there. So it's just, it is ultimately about the grind and the work. And even then, if you get to a point where you're be able to start becoming sustainable, right? It's also for your own mental health.
Sure.
Taking the time to appreciate it. And that's something I struggled with and suffered from for a long time. I was always so focused on the next thing, because the grind is addictive.
Right.
The grind is, it's like when you get in, I guess it's not really so much of a secret. I taught martial arts for years, and that grind and that exercise becomes addictive, and that getting into like peak form, and then I want to do this, I think it's the same way with the grind. It's like, oh, well, I've hit this milestone. Can I get this one?
Right.
Can I get this one? And it's funny, when I started mentoring more friends of mine about Kickstarter, I started telling them things like, beware the ever-moving goalpost. And I realized I was talking to myself too, right? I did a book with Tony Schiavone. That was amazing. It was the first ever original graphic novel advertised on cable television. That was amazing. Became a #1 bestseller on Amazon. What's next? But you got to stop to stop to appreciate it for your mental health, because your mental health is important when you're grinding that hard. And that's something too that I think in the last couple of years especially I've started to advocate for more than ever is to quote the modern day philosopher and poet and scholar Ice Cube.
Yes.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. And that's legit. You can get so caught up in that grind and so caught up in that and chasing that ever moving goalpost. You got to center. You got to stop and you got to appreciate it and say, oh my gosh, I did a book. Oh my gosh, I did this thing, and center yourself, then analyze what am I going to do next, and then you get back to it.
Sure. And you're hearing that from the horror guy. Mental health matters.
Yes. Yeah, right, yeah. I mean, trust me, I don't write horror because I'm completely well-adjusted, but 22 years in, I've learned that, mental health is crucial in order to approach horror the right way and approach those business opportunities to come up the right way.
Speaking of business opportunities, you actually have something that you have debuted here.
Yes.
For the first time. I consider myself lucky enough to have gotten a copy. I believe you said there are 100 copies that you have here. Is that
there were when it started. Well, we're lower than that now, yeah.
Please show it off, please.
This is the New York Comic Con exclusive preview comic for London After Midnight. And a lot of people know the image, but they don't know the name. This is the lost pre-code horror classic starring Lon Chaney. I'm working with Chaney Entertainment, and we're doing the official graphic novel adaptation of this lost horror film.
Wow.
The film does not exist. It debuted in 1927. It got lost in the Great Studio Fire in the 1960s. It's been gone.
Wow.
There's been a couple of rumors. Oh, it's going to pop up. I'm working with the Chaney estate. There's no film. It's gone. But now we're bringing it back as the official graphic novel adaptation. So we're doing the preview comic here with 100 copies. People are walking by, seeing it, losing their mind, getting one. And we're doing the Kickstarter for the full graphic novel Tuesday, October 29th. People can go to LondonAfterMidnightComic.com. That'll take you to the Kickstarter page. Hit notify me on launch, and you'll be able to get the Kickstarter exclusive hardcover edition that we're doing in conjunction with SourcePoint Press and Chaney Entertainment. Someone been on the show before, Joshua Ross.
Yeah.
Illustrating the whole book.
For me, that's a big deal. I love Josh Ross.
I love Josh. And between Josh doing the London After Midnight graphic novel adaptation, he's working on this. We also have done another graphic novel with another major force in horror.
Oh.
He has that one done, and we're announcing that book in January. We can't announce it until January. This is huge. Lon Chaney Estate, huge. I'm going to show you how huge. Adrena Joe. Well, I'm going to bring in my editor for a second.
We're being joined by a special guest.
Okay. She doesn't know what we're doing. You can all see this, didn't you? All right. This is our lovely editor, the Adrena Joe. We were just talking about. Okay. So we were just talking about London After Midnight and how this is a really big deal. And you were over there. You don't know what we were talking about, I don't think. I was. Yeah, that's fine. We love Marco. Hi, Marco. Okay. So Marco can attest to the fact that you did not hear what we were talking about. This is not a setup. We were talking about Josh Ross drawing this book and how the book that he finished for me and a mystery person in horror is just as big as this one, if not bigger. Is that accurate?
Wow.
And I'm like, why can't we mention it yet? Why can't I not drop a name? How come I can't say his name yet? Because it's huge.
Or her name.
Oh, stop.
Whoever that person may
Whoever
be.
she may be.
Or he. But yeah, so I've worked with Josh Ross since the early days of Nightmare World. We're getting to bring back London After Midnight. This is launching October 29th on Kickstarter. Right after this campaign ends, in January, we're announcing another full horror graphic novel with Josh Ross. You heard it from editor Adrena Joe herself, who had no clue that some people would consider just as big, if not bigger, than this.
Bigger. Which I always said. I mean, like, this was going to be my pinnacle. Like, there's no any bigger than this. I was wrong. He just keeps bringing me people that are bigger.
Well, when you're working with talent, the level of which we're working with, we need one of the best editors in the business. So,
Oh, thank you.
thank you, Adrena Joe. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Adrena. Really appreciate you. We'll talk a little bit later.
Yeah, that was a shoot. I mean, yeah. So yeah. You know.
Well, what strikes me, so the way I hear this is, you're becoming someone that people come to do these sorts of stories, because you did the Tony Schiavone story, which was phenomenal.
Thank you.
You did the Arn Anderson story, which I just picked up today, and you know, we're seeing how now AEW actually promotes comic books on their platform, right?
Yeah.
Through
DC. Glad they caught up.
Right. Exactly.
That was playful.
But you're becoming that guy, because now you've got the London After Midnight, which is a
Right.
big deal.
This is huge. I mean, this is like, as a horror guy,
Right.
I would dream of like someday someone finding this. And when I got the script in my hand, I was like, oh my goodness, royalty. Like I called my mom.
Oh, wow.
And I called my mom and dad, and I said, if I die tomorrow, I want you to know today, I'm working with the Chaney estate.
That's awesome.
So sorry, go ahead. Sorry, yeah.
No, that's great. And I even think back to Twisted and your relationship with them through Haunted Highons.
Yes.
So you've been establishing yourself, you know, as a horror guy, yes, but also as a guy who can be approached to do a graphic novel that involves some type of, you know, historical figure or some or a real person, and kind of tell a great story that people want to see and buy. So why do you believe that you're being approached with these opportunities, and do you think that you've adjusted yourself in any way to make this work?
When I work with someone like Arn Anderson, Twisted, Tony, now the Chaney estate and Ron Chaney,
Yeah.
I almost had to have you edit out because I almost said the name. But these opportunities, I consider myself a shepherd to helping them bring forward what they want to bring forward.
Sure.
That being said, I still identify as a mainly creator-owned comic content creator, right? But at the same time, when these opportunities come up to work with Lon Chaney to bring back London After Midnight, again, you may not know the name, you know that picture if you're a horror fan. In fact, by the way, you could say that I've been a fan for a long time.
Oh my goodness.
Exclusive, yeah.
Wow.
Right? You'll never unsee it. Because what's the other famous picture?
Yeah. Wow.
Right? I'm still full of surprises.
My mind is
all
blown.
these years later, I blew Sean's mind. But no, I see it as really being like a steward to these opportunities,
Sure.
right? You know, and it's something where when I approach them, I tell them, I'm like, hey, how can I work with you to bring this forward in a way that's going to honor what you want to do with it?
Right.
And that's the key. That's the key. I want to bring it forward for them and use 22 years of experience doing this. Talking about promotion without having a machine behind you. You know, Twisted has their own record label. They hadn't done comics. Tony Schiavone loves comics, but he'd never done anything like that.
Right.
Same with Arn and stuff like that. Same with Cheney Entertainment, right? They have experience in this world, and I've done this a long time, and they know that this isn't a situation where I don't want your rights. I don't want your IP. I want to help you bring this forward as a fan. But then for me, it's interesting because this is the first time in my career that I'm doing this book, London After Midnight, which you can go to londonaftermidnightcomic.com. Smash the notify me on launch button.
Yes.
Then in January, we're announcing the other thing. This is the first time in my career, I believe, I've done back-to-back graphic novels that are not creator-owned.
Huh.
So then for me, it's like, well, what's next? Then I'm going to do Tales of Mystery Volume 6.
Yes.
Yeah, dude, the best one yet. The best one yet.
Oh, bring it on.
Austin McKinley's illustrating it.
Oh,
then I'm
perfect.
doing another creator-owned book after that because it's like, I have that thing. I want to remind people that, yeah, I do get to work with these amazing talents and help them bring their stuff forward. And my level of, expertise, or at least experience. Let's be fair. My level of
Expertise.
No, it's a matter of perspective, right? But my experience in doing this and getting to help them shepherd this forward and let them keep their IP, let them keep their rights, and just, help them bring it forward. But at the same time, then to me, and that's awesome. But then as a side note, and see, I'm defending myself now, I don't need to. Then I'm going to do a bunch of creator-owned stuff again.
Yeah.
Because that's it. So I think it's just a matter of them knowing I'm very straightforward. I'm going to talk to them very directly. I'm going to tell them what we can do and what we can't. And yeah, AEW is now, DC Comics is now promoting their stuff. They're going to have a bigger platform through DC than they did with me and Source Point Press, and that's just facts. But we did it first.
There you go.
We did it twice.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But I'm glad we can blaze a trail and open that up because it wasn't happening before.
Sure.
Yeah,
Now, for someone who's got a pedigree like you have and a length of career like you have, how do you keep things sort of fresh and exciting for yourself as a creator, be it creator-owned, be it these original graphic novels? How do you keep yourself excited to tell stories?
I'm going to be very, very vulnerable and very real with you.
That's what I live for.
Okay, get ready. I'm glad there's a chair here. I've been doing this 22 years in February. There's a high likelihood I'm closer to the end than the beginning. That's just a fact. Now, that's not to say I'm going to stop in a year or in 5 years.
Sure.
But I need to start looking at what's my library going to be. I am buying comic books and graphic novels like I'm immortal. I went to a sale. I'm going to give him a shout out. Chris Rupp's Comics. He did a warehouse sale. I bought 3 bookshelves full of books at his $10 blowout sale. But it's all stuff I wanted.
Sure.
Like the Black Science Omnibus. And then this. It was $10.
Oh, my goodness.
It was $10.
Don't tell me that. I've spent so much money on Black Science.
It was like, boom, the Compendium.
Yeah.
The Fear Agent Omnibus is $10.
Oh, my goodness.
The Nocturnals Omnibus, 10. I was like, I never do this. I consider myself a fiscally responsible person.
Sure.
I had to take out my credit card, bro. I'm like, I'm going to be paying this. I don't care. But the thing is, then I look at it, I'm like, I want to read this stuff. I started Black Science, I didn't get a chance to finish it yet. And that's not a diss. I mean, just things get in the way,
Sure.
I want to get to a point where I can start to read more. And to me, and again, I'm just be very vulnerable. I would love, forces of the universe willing, to get to a point when I can say, this is the last one. This has been the library of Dirk Manning. Tales of Mystery is done. Do one last tour. So long and thanks for all the fish. Poof.
Wow.
Poof. So to me, what's motivating me now is, and it's kind of like Stephen King with The Dark Tower, right?
Oh.
I want to get to the end. I want to finish Tales of Mystery. There's other stories I want to do. I may or may not get to write every book I want to, but now I'm having to decide what are the books I want to have out that, again, forces of the universe willing, I get to that point where I can end it where I want to end it. I can at least be happy.
Yeah.
Be content. Like, that was it. And it's not, and I'm not going to die at the table one day and people are going to say, oh, he was working on this, but it's never to come out. And then like my estate, like, here's the notes, right? And someone else put it together. No, it's going to be, so that's a big motivator for me now is like, okay, I've got to start looking at how much more am I going to put out that's going to then, that'll be the library. Because again, you know, I did music journalism for years for comics. So I approach a lot of my work through the same lens that musicians and bands approach making music. There's a lot of power in saying, this is it, that's the library, and be done. So I think, honestly, real talk, no working anybody, that's where I'm at now. What are the things I want to get done? Homestead sat there for over a decade before I found the right people for it. It's out. I'm so excited. I'm getting to work with Cheney Entertainment on London After Midnight. This thing in January is going to blow people away.
I want to know.
We'll talk off the air. Tales of Mr. E Volume 6. No, I won't, because I'm not allowed.
Yes, of course.
I will say nothing, agent of person who may be watching, because they know that me and the other person involved keep almost slipping.
Oh, my goodness.
We're getting like yelled at. But I'm going to tell you this, though. When we announce it, everyone's going to look back and say he's been teasing us the whole time. There's your hint. But no, I'm looking at when I get to that point. Tales of Mystery Volume 6 is the best volume of the series to date. Austin McKinley's doing it. It's going to be amazing. But I'm looking at the end, and now I'm reverse engineering it. And again, I'm not going to be done. We're going to be talking here, again, New York Comic Con willing, a lot of years.
Yeah.
But I also am looking at the end and backwards planning at this point.
Sure.
Because Tales of Mystery is my favorite series to write. I've never been shy about that. I want to finish that. But then also, what are we going to sprinkle in the meantime to get there?
Yeah. So I guess the last question that I have for you, and it's really inspired by what you're saying now, is there a sort of roadmap in your mind as far as like that goal, that thing I really want to do outside of, finishing Tales and stuff like that, Tales of Mystery? Are there things, goalposts that you feel like you still need to reach before you can look back and go, okay, I have achieved what I felt like I needed to achieve and satisfied my goals?
I think back to an interview we did in this spot years ago when the first Right or Wrong came out.
Yeah.
And then, hey! And there's a volume, you mentioned there's a volume 1 on that spine. I said, there sure is. And I started working on volume 2. And in fact, Right or Wrong volume 1, the second edition that's now out, came about because I was writing volume 2 and I wanted to go back and reread volume 1 and kind of, go from 1 to 2, right? I'm to a point now where I keep putting off Right or Wrong volume 2 because, oh my God, I'm working with the Cheney estate. I work with Tony Schiavone and I don't feel I can offer volume 2 yet. And quite frankly, again, use Resnick, it's going to be that pipe bomb style book because more keeps happening.
Sure.
So that's like the other thing for me. It's like, will the last Tales of Mystery be the last one? Or do I put that out, do a final tour, and then put out Right or Wrong Volume 2? Or do I put out Right or Wrong Volume 2 and then do the last tour, and then I'm out? That's the stuff that keeps me up at night, right? But again, things keep evolving, and then I also have to realize at the same time, I'm so fortunate to be doing this as much as I've been doing this. But we all got a clock, right? We all got just like this interview. We all got a clock, but we have to figure out, so that's the other big one for me is Right or Wrong 2.
Yeah.
I originally thought I'd do 3 Right or Wrongs. Maybe I'll do 2.
I was going to say, hey, I wouldn't mind you do the third one afterwards to reflect on your career.
Yeah.
But I think the streets, as it were, need volume 2 now because Well, my opinion is that the industry has evolved so much.
It has, and it keeps evolving,
Right.
and I almost feel like it'll be outdated by the time I write it in a way. It's changing so fast.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the other piece. Like, when do I do the second right or wrong? And will it be only a second one, or will it be the second one will be the pipe bomb, and then volume 3 is going to be life on the road and just stories and photos and maybe like a nice little send-off piece.
Yeah.
Like, here's all these unpublished photos, and it's not 5 copies. Who cares? That was it. Again, so long and thanks for all the fish. So that's the other piece swirling in the ether, because as fortunate and as grateful as I am to have all the experience I've had, it's very important for me to pave a path forward for other people, to blaze that path, to pave a path, and to continue to find, going full circle in this interview. How can we find ways to make it as easy as possible for people that can positively contribute to this medium in this industry, make it possible?
Yes.
And that's the other thing that is on my mind 24/7 right now. How can we blaze and carve a path forward to make it as painless as possible for people that will grind to have that access and that opportunity to put their voices out there, to put more, and some people get mad about this word, but put more diverse voices out there in every sense.
Yeah.
Right? In every, just people that are like, I know I can write, I got these good, I just need to get it to people. That's also on my mind, and that's something that we might have another conversation sooner than later about that too. I would love to have that conversation because that's on my mind too. I wrote the book. Maybe we need more.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I want to make sure we make this clear. Dirk isn't saying, I'm on my way out. Dirk is saying there's a lot more to come.
A lot more.
There is also the reflection on where we've been and where we're going. And I think that is a beautiful thing. I'm really glad that you were willing to be so, honest.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. Most people work, 30 or 35 years and retire?
Sure.
I'm at year 22. Again, maybe I'll do it till I fall over, but we'll see. But I owe it to the people that have supported me to give them a complete experience. So yeah, I'm not going anywhere in a year. Sorry. I'm not going anywhere in 5 years. But I'm working, and I'm reverse engineering at this point.
Well, you're working hard. I love everything you're putting out. It's a beautiful stable of creations, and I think that anyone here in this room and anyone watching with creative aspirations would be proud to have the catalog of work that you have. And so you talked about taking stock and reflecting, and I think that's something you should definitely take stock of if you haven't. Dirk, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Please, before we close, can you let the audience know where they can find you, find more of your work, find out more about you? LondonAfterMidnight.com for the Kickstarter.
London After Midnight
Comic.com. I'm sorry.
I'm all over the Comics Pals podcast. Just look for Dirk Manning. I'm all over it. just look all over this podcast at least once a year. No, DirkManning.com is my website. You can sign up for my monthly newsletter there. I send it myself. All killer, no filler, no AI, no robots. Once a month, I sit down, I write everybody a letter. Here's what's going on. I'm on most social media at Dirk Manning. Look for not this guy, but this guy, separated at birth. But yeah, most social media at Dirk Manning. DirkManning.com. I send out a newsletter once a month. And again, I'm very fortunate and grateful to have been on the show so many times with you and document this journey. And I would encourage people to check out your archives, and you'll see me sprinkled in too here and there, but all the stuff you guys do is great. So,
well, you guys will see a lot more of us because we are all over this building, New York Comic Con. So all
Comics
weekend,
Pals are representing.
You got that right.
Yeah.
We'll be grinding. Dirk's going to be grinding all weekend. Stop by and say hello wherever you see this man. This is the Road Warrior of comics, as I said earlier. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check us out all over socials. We'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.